Hey everybody, it's Stephanie, and I am going to be talking to you today about just some more information about my journey, just my experience as someone who has had gastric bypass, and sort of where I have ended up. So I've talked to you a little bit about my journey. I shared with you some of the things that I went through, just adapting emotionally, physically, and spiritually to my new body. And as I was in transition, some of the thoughts that I had for the first half of the time since I've had surgery. I was single, so just really being able to get in touch with my emotions and feelings, and having different types of attention from men. I learned to process that, and just all kinds of things. So I wanted to give you guys a quick recap and share where I'm at right now. So as I told you before, I had gastric bypass surgery, and the surgery that I had, I don't know if I've been clear, but I wanted to be clear. The type of surgery that I had is called the duodenal switch, or the DS for short. So those of you out there that have had gastric bypass, or if you have been doing your research, then you probably, that probably sounds familiar. I'm trying to talk to you guys really quick while my son is napping and we're in transition. But I had the duodenal switch, which is it's sort of a combination of gastric bypass and the sleeve. So they shorten your short intestine, and they also give you a sleeve for a stomach, and that is to in combination with those two, try to give you some really dramatic results, because I weighed 420. It was my heaviest prior to surgery. So I had my surgery June of 2010, and again, we talked about some of the emotional things that I went through in my surgery. I met my husband in October of 2011. So by the time that he and I met, I was probably about 200 pounds. And even though, so I'm giving you numbers, but also so that you can understand that the way that my body was shaped and where things were placed, my aesthetic, or the way that it looked, made me look even smaller. The smallest that I got down to was probably between a size, some places, depending on where you shop, is like a 9, right? A 9 or 8, but I was probably like a cool 10 at my lowest. And so I met my husband October of 2011, and we were engaged the end of July in 2013. So by that time, I had sort of I'd gotten down to my lowest, which was 160, and then I started to level out, where you pick up a little bit of weight and then you sort of level out. And by then I was probably about 170, 175, and so I was probably like a solid 10 and maybe a 12 in some cases. I was never ever a size, I never sweat size. That was just not me. I didn't care really what it was. I thought it was interesting. Now let's be clear. Like it was interesting, or it was, and when I say interesting, like, it was interesting to see me get to some of these milestones, but I wasn't totally like caught up on it. Like, if I'm not this size, then this is not good. So the numbers definitely wasn't. It was all about an aesthetic for me. So it could be a 12, it could be whatever. I didn't care. And I think mostly because as I lost weight, the way that my body was shaped, I think allowed me to fit a lot of things that I probably would not have, but I didn't care what the size was. But I use those things to give you guys an idea, because there are some of you out there that are caught up on those things. Not okay. But anyway, so when I got engaged and I was preparing to get married and preparing, getting my wedding dress ready, and and I don't know, there was just a lot going on with my husband and myself at the time. I noticed that I would have these little quick bumps in my weight, and so by the time I think I got married, I was probably like still around 175, and then soon after that I remember going to a doctor's appointment and it was like 182, and I went and so slowly but surely I started to gain weight, and then soon after that I became pregnant. So I got pregnant in 2014. So I was pregnant in 2014, and I was retaining a lot of water. There was a lot of swelling on my legs. My OBGYN wanted me to wear compression socks and that sort of thing. So I gained weight with my pregnancy. And right after I had my son, I was really bound and determined to breastfeed because I wanted to make sure that I got the weight off and I didn't want to get caught up. And so right after I had my son, I did lose weight initially, and just because he was a little stubborn, he didn't latch as well as I had hoped that he would, and so I didn't even have an opportunity really to pump. I think I just sort of flubbed the whole thing. But long story short is I did not breastfeed, and so then it was like just soon after, probably about a month after I had my son, it seemed like the weight came off, and then it just started to come back on. And so, and I have been in an upward, not a downward, I've been in an upward spiral ever since, which has been really super frustrating for me. And so I am sharing this with you as I have committed to sharing everything else. And so with that being said, I have now gotten to the place where, even aesthetically, because I've always carried weight really well, which has been a good and a bad thing. It's good because I don't always look like a total fatty, but it's bad because I am gaining weight, and sometimes it'll get away from me before I know it. So for me, I feel like it has gotten away from me before I've really had a chance to get on it. So my husband and I have also been sharing and sort of documenting that we decided together, because since I've been in my husband's life, he's gained some weight as well, right? And so we decided that we were going to do some healthier eating and that sort of thing. And to be honest, I have been completely considering a revision surgery, because I'm like, have I gained, like 100 pounds? I have not. But I don't want to gain 100 pounds. So I'm kind of like in this paranoid mode. But I will say this too. I almost dread having to sort of go back in what I call like gastric mode. And here's why. Because there was so much, and I guess it's a discipline thing, but I'm just here sort of, sipping tea with you guys, right? So there's so much work and thought behind it, and I can take myself back, right? And I can remember, God, how I thought about everything. And I think it was exciting at first, but it became, or it can become, a bit of a chore. Like I thought I had to think about everything I did. I had to think about everything I ate. I mean, it was all that I did, because even what's around you or who's around you, there's always, eating. So there was always something to consider, and there was always something to think about. And I had to do a lot of thinking, right? I had to pre-pack a lot of stuff. I had to be prepared, making sure that I was making my protein in the morning. And also, again, when I was like really committed and dedicated, I was single and I had an older child. So at the time, my oldest daughter, she could sort of fend for herself. So it wasn't necessarily that I had to. So how I considered her was different. So I could really channel a lot of energy into my pre and post surgery care and maintenance, right? And so now you fast forward, and I have a husband, and so when I cook, and then I have a young son, I call them, toddlers, I call them littles. So I have a little, right? And so with my little and then my husband, I'm always constantly thinking about, there's just so many other people, so many other components in which I have to think about. And so then being uber sensitive and focused on my eating and constantly how much I weigh is a chore, really. And one that I find that when I think about having to do it, I just go, oh God, really? But also too, when I think about putting on my pants, or when I think about the fact that when I put on Spanx or Body Shaper and I still have a pudge, that's irritating too, right? So I used to be able to put on any little Body Shaper and just shrunk. My stomach was flat. Yes, I did have a baby. I am over 40, right? So those are things that I can take into consideration. And so I've been doing my research lately, because I did share with my husband and a friend of mine, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about having revision. And they're like, that's not the answer. You should just diet and exercise, which I'm not saying is not correct. But and I'm sure some of you out there will know, most people, if you haven't had the surgery or you haven't really had huge issues with weight, everybody always likes to tell you that hasn't had a really big issue on what you should or should not do, especially when like surgery comes out. I don't know why people get so offended, or like they get angry. I don't know why it bugs them so much, because my husband was like, surgery is not the answer for everything. No, it's not the answer for everything, but it's one of the answers. It's a tool that people can use for weight loss. It's not a end all or be all. I'm perfectly 100% aware of that, but I know that it's one of the options, and it's one of the options that I may or may not consider depending on my situation. So those of you that have had revision, or those of you that are considering or getting ready to, I'm sure that you heard the talk when you were telling people, or you've shared that you wanted to have surgery. People have something to say about it all the time, especially those that, again, like I said, they don't have weight problems, but they like to tell you how in which you should approach your health and your weight issue. So for me, whatever's best for that person, I say go ahead. I've gone through it. Mine was successful. I had very few bumps in the road. I was very lucky. I was happy with my results, and because I was happy with my results, I want to keep my results. So I'm looking at all of my options. And so for DS patients especially, I sort of started taking a look at when DS patients begin to experience weight gain, what are some of the causes? And shocker, right? Some of the causes for weight gain is picking up bad eating habits. Yeah, and I think the number one thing for me is definitely, I think, a reintroduction reintroduction of carbs into my diet really, really, really has hurt me in the past. One thing I will say and share, and where people would be like, yeah, you gotta, I'm driving, you guys, so I'm driving and talking at the same time, but one of the things that I experienced was I didn't have a lot of issues. I didn't have a lot of issues with what I ate. My malabsorption at its height was really good. So I could sort of, there was room for, and when I mean room is that I could have little bits of, maybe like white rice. Like I could stay away from bread. I wasn't like huge into pasta, so even now I don't necessarily know how much I care for pasta. But you know, if I wanted to have a little bit of white rice with something, I could kind of get away with some of those things even after my surgery, because I was so diligent in the other areas, and I could sort of process it. Because if I did have something like bread or pasta, I would always pay the price. Like my surgery and my restriction tool was working really great, you know, so it always sort of you didn't want to feel bad. So I guess without noticing, I guess I started feeling bad less and less when I made like mistakes. And so when I took risks and chances in my eating and I wasn't paying the heavy price for it anymore, then I think it just sort of crept in and reintroduced itself into my diet. And so I think I've been married for three years. I just celebrated my third anniversary last week, and so I think 2 of those years, they've just been the worst as far as my eating goes, and it has definitely shown up. So I was, like I said, I was doing my research on weight gain, bad eating habits, one of them. Age, which of course is another factor. I am now well into my 40s. I am 42. So they said that definitely plays a part, because your metabolism slows down, you know, it takes a nosedive. And then also your malabsorption, you know, just as time progresses, you are able to absorb more and more, and you take more in. No matter how drastic your small intestine has been shortened, you can eventually begin to get more and more absorbed into your system. So I learned that. So bad eating habits, check. Age, check. And you know, my malabsorption, I would probably go out on a limb and say that I probably absorbed more than I did 3.5, 4 years ago, right? So here I am. And so I said, okay, well, what are people doing about it? And some people, you know, are having revision surgeries where, you know, the doctors are going in and sort of checking out to see if things are stretched, and checking out the small intestine. And then, of course, but what they recommend first and foremost, and here's where my dilemma is. You know, of course, they want you to try to go the low carbs as possible, or 0. And I'm just like, just like, you've got to be kidding me, right? And so, and it's not that I didn't enjoy eating it, but I think it's, like I said, I'll just be honest, it's the work of it all. I remember how much work it was, and I don't, I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated at myself. I know having a baby, honestly, I'm glad he's here, and he's been so gracious enough to stay asleep this whole time. But my goodness, it really did do a number on my body. I mean, when I was pregnant, I could just feel that, this was changing the game for me. And then, I think about as my weight loss surgeon was challenging me to lose weight up to my surgery date. He would have me on these 10-day liquid diets, which would be basically sugar-free Jell-O, popsicles, and broth. And those of you, especially if any of you that are watching, that sort of, we all went through it together. There was like a group of like maybe 15 of us at my job that we kind of all went through it together. Whew, you guys remember, I mean, we would be finding each other. We all worked on different floors. I would pop up to their floor and be like, who's got a sugar-free popsicle? We could have, I've got a Jell-O I could exchange, for a popsicle, just 10 days. I mean, and it would be, I remember going to sleep at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon just so I could just sleep time away, because being on liquids for 10 days used to just be the worst. And as I was doing my research, I was realizing that I may be in that stage again, where I might have to try to do like a reset, what they call it, a reset, which is like kind of go back to like the most drastic, when I was just hua gung-ho, totally watching not that you shouldn't, but sort of almost really rigid and militant with it. And I'm pretty much devastated. Yeah, I'm pretty much devastated about the whole thing. But, and it's the holidays, right? And so, of course, I was like, I'm going to do this the first of the year, right? I'm not going to, but I almost feel like I can't wait till the first of the year. So it looks like I am going to be going 0. I mean, I wanted to sort of, and as far as like our eating, it's been pretty good, right? I mean, we've been doing okay. Just, we've had friends come over and they said, God, your refrigerator is so healthy. It's just been full of fruits and vegetables and complex carbs. But those of you that are considering having surgery, have already had surgery, even complex carbs, don't let them fool you too much, right? So I'm thinking, God, I gotta go 0 carbs again. Like, I'm devastated. So this is my rant and sort of my vent, and also just being super transparent that this fight never goes away. It never goes away. And unless you have been through it in some sort of way, shape, form, or fashion, unless you are someone who has food addictions, and I'm sure people can empathize and sympathize, maybe sympathize, but may not be able to empathize, unless that's you. It's sort of hard, people are like, well, I eat too much sugar, or whatever the case, and it may not have gained them lots of weight, but they were addicted, and I understand that. But unless you're a food addict and you in the 300 and 400 pounds, there's still a something else. And I know that a lot of you out there, you know what I'm talking about. You know, my mom, I'm going to share this with you, and then I'm going to go because I've been talking a really long time. So my mother's pretty tall, and my mom's tall. She's not overweight. She's height weight proportion for her age and for her height. But so she has to shop in Lane Bryant. And so there's no shade on Lane Bryant because I was a freaker flyer, okay? And so my mom was like, yeah, I need you to take me over there. I want to buy a few things. And I have a bunch of coupons. And so maybe you could find something for you too. And I was like, huh? I don't want anything out of Lane Bryant, okay? And because I was devastated, I didn't want anything out of there. But here is the reality and the result. So a few years ago, as I was coming down after my surgery, and I purchased because I've always had really big calves. Even after the weight loss, I still had to buy like wide calf boots, even at my smallest, because just the way that my legs are shaped, I have really big calves. So when I experience weight gain, that's even worse. So I had these pink rain boots that I got from Lane Bryant as I was losing weight a few years back, about 5 years ago or so. I got these pink rain boots, and so they're wide calf, and I was really excited that I was able to wear them, and I wear them every fall and into winter. I love to wear them. And so it started raining here, and you know, I live in Washington, for those that may not know that be watching me. I live in Washington, so I got really excited, and I went to put the boots on, and these are wide calf rain boots that came from Lane Bryant, and I can't get them over my calves. Yeah, I cannot wear them. So fast forward to today. My mother offered if I would give her a ride to Lane Bryant, she would buy me something. And so I've been struggling to get boots. I was looking for wide calf boots, and they're in high demand. So it's hard, even when you're ordering them from online or whatever. The wide calves, you know, they're hard to come by, especially if you wear, you know, like a really, you know, like size 9 for women, 8.5 for women is common. So those go fast, right? So my mom offered to buy me something, and so she bought me a pair of boots from Lane Bryant today, and they fit over my calves, but I had to get something out of Lane Bryant today. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. So that's where I am. I am fighting my way out of Lane Bryant. So I'm gonna let you guys, you're hearing it first, that I'm going on a 10-day liquid fast. Yeah, it's going to be excruciating. Yeah, it's going to be excruciating. So I will keep you posted. I'm going to be right now, you know, and I've been blogging and vlogging about a lot of different things, but I'm going to be really talking to you about this because this is really hard pressing, and it's something that I have to sort of get a handle on, because if I don't, it's just going to be all bad. Okay, so I've been talking to you guys for about 30 minutes now, and my son I saw him kind of moving around back there, so I'm going to go ahead and run into Target and TJ Maxx before I have to pick up my husband. So I'll keep you posted on my reset and what my results are, and also keep you posted, because like I said, I also will be making sure that whatever ram in the bush I need as far as a revision, if that ends up being necessary, and hopefully it doesn't, because I just don't, not because I'm not game for to do whatever it takes to make sure that I stay healthy. But, who just wants to go through the surgery again? I will if I have to. I'm definitely not discriminating. However, we'll see if zero carbs and a few 10-day liquids here and there will sort of help jumpstart things. I definitely am devastated and miserable having to be in this position again. But if I'm going to be in this position, why not share it with all of you? So I love you. That's my rant. And if anyone is considering surgery or anything like that, please post your questions. You can contact me at Stephanie Life Leadership. I am on Life Leadership is on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We are on Periscope. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. You can reach out to me and anywhere and find me, and I have no problems talking to you, discussing, answering questions, just sharing some of my experiences, things that you I may not have touched on. Hit me up. I love you all. God bless you.